Hey everyone, good morning. It's time for some spiritual coffee on this wet winter, cold fall day in Raleigh. I'm Julie Caraccio and
Angela Coulter. Good morning, everybody. Loving the weather, even though it's a little rainy this week.
you know what? I'm taking it with you. I love this crock pot time. I treat myself to pumpkin spice latte, the only time that I usually drink coffee, so it's all good.
Yes, we like, actually, because I don't drink coffee, but they have this fabulous thing at Starbucks called apple caramel spice, which is like apple cider with like caramel. Oh, it's just to die for. So, yeah, try it.
I have something else that I have to check out. Good deal. All right. Today, as usual, our topic, I think we did really well. We figured this out 2 minutes before we started. We're going to talk about hierarchy in the spiritual world, and kind of that's the old school. I don't want to use old school because I like that term. It was old way of people doing it, which means putting people on a pedestal, that sort of thing. And you know, we all have the answers within. And I think Angela and I have probably said at some point on every single episode of this that we've done, we all have the answers within. We all know what's going on, but there are still people. And again, it's where we are on our path. There's no judgment here, but our job is to get you all going, is the sense of hierarchy. I know more than you. And, you know, what brought this up this week is I had an incident happen, and basically someone said to me, well, our truth is the truth, and you're now. And that, you know, our person had so-and-so come to them because they're special. And that will kind of is where we're going to start from. So what do you, go ahead, Angela. We've got to roll the ball. Get it going.
Well, there's so much of the ball to roll from that. Yeah, we were talking about that, and it was like, yeah, this is it's a huge topic, and it's so subtly integrated into so much that we do, and it's based in this whole duality thing, right? So when we go through this duality, we go through the perception that there is a me and a not me, or a have and a have not, which is always like that there could be something outside of me, which means that somebody could have something that I don't have, right? So that's really the whole experience that we've had. So with all of the advancement spiritually and the awakening and everything what's happening, I find, and I see this often, is that there is this still a hierarchy and duality set up in the spiritual world, and it's not even, and I don't believe it's intentional, it's habit for us, right? It's habit for us to say, oh, well, that person, is a psychic, or that person is an indigo child, or that person is whatever, a clairvoyant, or that person does this, or that person's a channeler and channels this person, or this being. And my understanding and my experience is that the reality is all of us are. All of us are all of that. And we have had such a habit and an existence of taking it outside of us that we believe that there are some who have different things than others or whatever, and that we can't possibly have that, right? And so when we go back to that original statement that you're saying is that we all have it within, which is what we talk, you're right, we talk about it over and over, but that is the basis for all of that stuff. It's coming to the point of, number one, releasing all the stuff that causes us to believe we're not able to do that, and then to be able to see and know and all that kind of stuff. And two, well, the thing is letting go of the hierarchy. We're so used to it, right? Everything's got this hierarchy in our experience, and in this universe of duality, we do it all in hierarchy, and who's smarter than who, and who's more aware than who, and who's more than, who's less than, who's here, who's there. And it was funny because we were talking beforehand. And I do talk about this. You know, one time I was talking to somebody. I'm going to tell them what I was telling you beforehand, because when I was talking to someone, a friend of mine, this was like a year ago, and I said, you know, I get tired sometimes of being put on a pedestal because of what I do and because of the practice I started and all that kind of stuff. And so my friend said to me, like, so come on, admit it, you like being on the pedestal a little bit. And I laughed and I said, you know, it's not that I don't. I love being on the pedestal. It's a great view up here, but I want everyone to realize that they're up here on the pedestal with me. It's not me. It's not me alone. It's all of us, and the view is great. And I want everybody to realize that they have the same view. And so it's not like taking me down off of it. It's making everybody realize that they know that they're up there too.
Right. And I really think, like, I think of spiritual people and leaders like in the 80s and 90s, and again, no judgment, we are where we're on the path, but it's like I have the knowledge and I'm here to impart it to you, and there is that sense of hierarchy. And I think, you know, based on, I just happened to me the other day and saying that my truth wasn't the truth, and that only they had the truth because they were more spiritually advanced, and that's something that to me, you know, needs to be addressed as well, because that's a red light. Because if someone takes that away from you, and I say this because at points in my life, probably the majority, and it could still happen, that would cause me to be like, oh my gosh, question myself, question my inner wisdom, and I don't want to see anyone lose time or make a mistake because I went through that.
Right, right, and it's really common, no matter how long somebody's been on that path. I mean, and it's funny because, you know, what did I come back to when you asked me about it was the best thing to do is to stand on your own guidance and say, you know, my guidance tells me this. Because anybody who truly is honest and walking the walk on that can respect that and honor that, even if you have different guidance. And that's basically what I always say, and because that's what I depend on is my own guidance, because I know that my guidance is going to steer me in the right direction, and that's highest and best for me. And that's important for all of us to get to. So we come back to our like, you know, core competency of meditation, finding a way to clear the chatter, you know, finding the ways to basically tap in. But it is truly, you know, we have just, it's been such a habit for us. And it's like, again, like you said, there's no judgment on this, but it's really something for us to be very aware of as we step into these shoes and we step into this next phase. Because, you know, yesterday I had a session with a student of mine, and in the session with my student, you know, like we always start out, and this happens so much, we start out and somebody, you know, like we start out and the person thinks that they're working on their stuff, right? But we're really working on collective stuff. All this stuff is related to the collective and the oversouls and whatever. And there's been something that's been going on for the past 3 or 4 weeks that's been really heavy duty for everyone. And it was just like a lot of people have been feeling wave after wave after wave after wave. And I'm like, okay, we're hitting on big things, but there's a bigger linchpin. We weren't even talking about this. She's talking about her stuff and her stuff only. And she's like, well, whoa, and I'm feeling like this. And I'm feeling like this pattern. And then I was guided to tell her about something that I had experienced. And then she's the one who said to me, oh my God, do you see the pattern? That's the oversoul. That's the linchpin. That's the thing. And I was like, oh my God. And you know what? I was like, thank you. I was like, yes, we finally got to it. And it was, you know, I'm going to definitely do a webcast on it tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. And do you mind if I use your name? And thank you for the collective for finding that, you know, or seeing that and pointing it out. Because we're all in this together. And that's the whole thing is I expect anyone who I talk to or interact with who's in my reality, I know that everyone is the divine as much as I am, and it has all of the answers just like I do. And because of our individual journeys, it comes to this place of, okay, I'm seeing it from my perspective, as wide of a perspective as it could be, and it takes all of our individual journeys to bring all the perspectives to remember everything in the bigger picture. And to me, that's the most beautiful part of the symphony.
Absolutely. But I also want to remind people and remember we all have our gifts. You know, in this particular conversation, someone said, oh, well, you know, so-and-so special because so-and-so passed and came and talked to them. And I'm like, well, actually, I've heard this, you know, this person who's deceased talk to a couple different people. And I wasn't jealous. I was like, awesome. You have that gift. That's not, you know, Angela was an originator of Trinity Energy. Awesome. That's not my path. It's all good. It doesn't take away my gifts or make anything that I do less significant. It's just her path, my path, they're different. Again, getting back to that, we're not in a hierarchy. Trinity Energy isn't better than whatever I do, which I can't think of the moment because it's early. But anyway, you know, I think that that's an important part of it. We're all, again, getting back to that no hierarchy. No one's better than the other, just on different journeys.
Exactly, and that's the whole thing is I love watching people step into their true power and coming into what they volunteered to do. because it's always beautiful and powerful and amazing and beyond anything their former egoic self would have been able to imagine. And it's helping, that's why I love my job so much, is that's what I help people do, is to get out of their own way so they can step into their own. And I always tell them it's yours only. It's what, the reason we split ourselves as the divine and did all these separations and duality and what I call partitions is so that we could do different parts of the same lesson in different ways. And that's the beauty of the whole thing. And so that's what people ask me is well, what do you mean about when you say everybody's a divine, everybody can access this? Well then, then nobody has gifts really, because I'm well, they do, because here's the thing. All of it's there. We have all of it. It's what we have, but it is what we have chosen based on our individual journeys, right? That fits into, and I literally see it as an entire symphony. Everybody has a perfect note to fit into the symphony so that it plays that perfect song, right? Which is what we're doing. And that's the beauty of how we've had individual journeys. And I always tell everyone, so, if you want to just talk about those who are incarnate here on the planet, right? There are many, many more than that, but it's, so what, 7.1 billion, right? And I say this all the time, is 7.1 billion paths to enlightenment. That's exactly what we have. Because there are no two people who have the same exact path back home. This is the way back home is what I'm talking about. It's there's that quote about, there are many paths lead up the mountain, but at the top you all look at the same moon. That's exactly what we're doing. And so that's, to me, it's coming from this, it's coming to this point of, and this comes to another bigger topic of, because of we've lived in duality and separation throughout this existence, and it's such a habit for us, right? What we tend to do is we live based in separation and exclusion. So what we say is, well, this person doesn't have this, and this person doesn't have that, or this store doesn't have that, or this store doesn't have that. And if we stopped doing that and simply changed our words and changed our perception to say, okay, well, this is what you do have. This is what the person does have. This is what the place does have. It becomes more inclusionary, and we start looking at what we have in common and what we can do to work together versus how to separate ourselves, because now we're done with how to separate ourselves. So it goes, it's a huge topic on that, but it is so important for us to look at this in the spiritual standpoint, because then that goes down to spiritual ego.
I was just going to say that if someone sees themselves in a hierarchy above you, and again, I think that was, I don't know if it was a spiritual history or that's just how it was supposed to lay out, but if someone thinks that they're above you, I mean, that they're coming from ego. And it's not to saying that you can't learn something from them or anything like that, but again, in this day, it's all, like you said, we're all together in this. We're all on the same level. But, it's interesting to me, and I would say just on my own personal journey, I always, for years, sought the answers from other people, would go to see intuitives or whatever. I didn't trust my guidance. I needed to learn some stuff, clear some junk, and know now, okay, I have everything that I need. I don't need to go outside of it. I still have those moments that I'm like, rah, feel like I do, but that's, I think, how it is for a lot of people, and that's a big shift that I'd like to see. Hey, it's good to get guidance, it's good to get support, that's all good, but you're no less than.
Right. Right, and I mean, that's what I focus my entire career on now, is really having people, pushing people to do that, because it is the most important to do that. It's funny because I did a class a couple weeks ago, and this was actually really funny. So I had people come and practitioners come and assist those who've taken the class already, and so one of the practitioners was talking about how his journey entailed, in the beginning, Angela seems really nice, and she's really supportive, and she's encouraging and everything, and he's like, and then after you take the class, after a little while, and she starts pushing back on you and making you do the work, then you're like, God, she's sort of like a, she's a little, I don't know that I like her so much anymore. He's like, and then when you get the hang of it and you start getting the answers and you start being able to trust it, then you're like, oh, well, wait, maybe she's nice after all. It doesn't she's doing it. It's like, I always tell people, it's not my job for you to like me. It's my job to help you how to fish. that whole saying, like, don't give a man a fish, teach him how to fish. Well, that's my job, is teaching people how to fish. So that's what it's important for all of us to do, right? And that's just, the more we do that, then the more and brighter, the more light we bring in, the higher vibration we all live, the faster we all move this transition and the whatever you want to call it, whether it's ascension or just transition or whatever. But it's sort of like, you know, getting to the next level. And to me, like I said, it's beautiful, because it's beautiful watching everyone step into their power and remember who they are, remember the power they have within them. And I've had so many people, it's funny, because like you're saying, I've had people who've taken class from me and they've had no other practice or no other, like, say, energy healing or anything like that. And I'll follow. And then they're all intimidated because they're doing a share with me and this and that. And I've had students who've had nothing before they took the class, and I have had some of the most powerful sessions from those students, you know, that are far even more powerful than some who've been doing it for years and years and years. And it has there's no hierarchy on it. And that's what I always tell everybody. I'm here to teach you because that's what I volunteer to help you remember how to do this, because you already know, right? And so that's the whole thing. And so we were talking about this in context of what happened with you, and I see this a lot. Like, I see people go, oh, well, you know, I was told I am this, and I was told I am this, or this person was that, and I've had people that I've worked with who have gone down this path of following their guidance, and have somebody else do, like, have the same kind of thing happen with what happened with you, is they come back and they're like, well, so-and-so told me that they got this, and it was different than my guidance. And then they start faltering, because then they start wondering if their guidance is accurate. And I know that's sort of what you were going through.
Yeah, but also an attempt I felt like my power being taken away, because when someone says it's only our truth, or blah, 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 or don't honor what your guidance is, that's very disempowering.
Right. Yeah, that is. It is, because it's when you start, because that's still the right and wrong based in duality, right? Or yeah. If you get, you know, and the key is getting to the point of saying, if we have different guidance, we have different guidance, and it doesn't make one right and one wrong. We just need to honor each other's guidance and just go on our way. And if we are getting something different, where it's something where we're forced to move, like where we have to work together on something, you know, and yet the guidance is very different, then I've done work with people. We've worked together to get our guidance to the same place that, you know, we can see it, even if it's from different perspectives.
Right, right. But again, I think it all goes back to trust your guidance, honor it, and if someone's not going to, that should be a little bell to pay attention, and to really, again, like, not coming from a place of judgment, coming from a place of observation. Because, you know, my thing is, what do I need to learn on this? Because it's all about me. And so, but again, that hopefully is a little bell to reinforce, to trust yourself, to honor your guidance, to keep your power.
It's a big bell. But yeah, and the other thing that I was going to say, when we see, it's going to come back to me in a moment, as it flew out of my head. I just totally lost it. Oh well, it'll come back.
It always does.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, oh, I know what it was. Okay, the habit, and to get over the habit, because that's really what it is we have such deeply ingrained habits of accepting that, right? You're a child. Your parents tell you to do something, and you don't agree with it, and they just say do it, and you're sort of told to do it because they know better, because they're your parents, right? And then you have that with your boss. You have that with, you know, peers. You have that all, you know, all through this existence of duality. And so now we're stepping back into a place. You know, I brought my kids up. I always told my kids, always question. If it doesn't feel right to you, question it. I don't care if it's from me, your father, your teacher, I don't care who it's from. If it doesn't feel right, question it. And that's actually, if you think about it, that's actually a little bit about following your guidance, because if you don't feel right about it, meaning there's something in your gut telling you there's something off about something, question it, because how many times have we sort of faltered in that in history in our lessons, and it's time to get past those habits, right?
Absolutely. Oh, you must have had interesting teenage years. The kids could taken that in very interesting directions.
Well, they did. It's funny, though, because there were a couple times, and this came up recently, I was talking to somebody about that. So my kids are 18 and 16 now, and, during the 15-ish years, those are the 14, 15, because they want to do stuff, and when my oldest went through that, there were 3 different situations, 3 different circumstances, I remember, that she came to me, and yeah, we're strict by today's standard. We were strict by today's standards in many respects, but it was like, if it was reasonable, like it was like fine. But 3 different times she came to me and asked me to do something, and I got no. That's what I got. I got very loudly no, and so I responded to her no, even though I had no reason, right? So I'll never forget the first time that happened, and she said, "Why not?" And because it really was a seemingly benign thing, or whatever it was, to do something with her friend, and I was like, and I looked at her and I said, "I don't know why not, except that I'm getting that it's not in your highest and best interest to go and do this." And of course she sort of got huffy and puffy, and she went off, and then the next day, or a couple days later, or whatever, I think it was the kids got in trouble. There was a kid that was there and whatever, and they got kicked out of a park or something like that, and it was nothing she would ever known, because it was a kid she didn't even know that ended up being there, and she goes, Mom, that was probably a good call. I said, probably. So then the second time it happened, the same thing happened, and I looked at her and I said, don't know why, getting that it's not in your highest and best interest to go. And so she didn't, and then something else sort of happened that it was really good for her not to have been there. So yeah. The third time it happened, she didn't even ask. She just said, okay, and she left.
Very good, very good.
So it also teaches when we do that, though. And I mean, yes, okay, she wanted to go, but the thing was, she did also respect that I don't overreact. I'm not the kind of I'm not the kind of parent that'd be like, oh no, you can't do that because of this. I would typically be like, yeah, okay, whatever, within reason. And because I just said no, and my guidance was that it wasn't for her highest and best good, and it also taught her to start listening to her gut on stuff. And that's a really powerful tool. Even without meditation, many times we get those messages, right, from the gut, and how many times have we not listened to them because the mind tries to override it because of what we do in this duality stuff? That's a whole other topic for another day, but and then later on we come back and say, should have done that.
Or I posted this the other day. Here's your sign. Now go do whatever it was that you were waiting on guidance for, and don't keep asking for more signs and trying to override it. If the sign's there, pay attention. It's there.
Yes, and I reposted that because I loved it, because I was like, yes, here it is. Here's your sign. Go and do it. I saw a picture somebody posted, an actual sign outside someplace somewhere, and I thought that was great. Could you imagine driving on the side of the road and seeing that? Here's your sign, waiting for it.
There you go, absolutely. But here it is. Now act or do nothing or whatever it is, and honor it, and don't keep asking for more.
Right, and these are basic practices just to get into, and that's where we start when we learn how to listen to our guidance, is to listen to our guidance and not override it, right? And the more we go along on that. And so that's actually a good basic practice. It's flexing the basic muscles that you need, no matter how much further you go in terms of exploring your intuition and your spirituality and your psychic abilities, or whatever you want to call them. I call them your divine abilities. But that's just a basic, if we started living from that, I think it feels like it would change things so that people would react differently, instead of allowing them to give their power away so easily, to say, that just doesn't feel right to me. And it's okay with if you want to go and do that, but it just doesn't work for me. And I have heard my daughters say that to me in the past year or so, and it's like, oh my God, something rubbed off, yay! But you know, that's a huge difference in this world because of being used to having people tell us stuff. Just tell us what's good for us and what's not.
But think about also how that raises vibrations. If something doesn't feel right, you feel yucky. But if it feels good, you feel good, and you're raising your vibration. If we were all to do that collectively, you know, that's just one little tip in the domino to spiral us up and keep moving us in that direction.
Absolutely. You know, I always tell everybody, you know, anybody who has ever played around with, you know, muscle testing or kinesiology, and one of the basic things I teach people is, okay, just close your eyes and listen to your body for a moment, quiet your mind, and just say the word yes to yourself and feel what that feels like, and then say no to yourself and feel what that feels like. And if it's quiet enough, you can feel a subtle difference in the way your heart expands or contracts, or like your body either it clenches a little bit or expands a little bit. So our muscles, our cells have this consciousness, and know that yes is like the open gate, and no is closing everything down, which is based in separation. So if we just do some basic, really basic exercises, you know, it's pretty amazing to see that we actually know the clear guidance. It's really that we're trying to override it with the mind, like you're saying. Well, give me another sign. Well, give me another sign.
Right.
And I've done that too.
Down from heaven if I'm to do it.
I've done that too. I've had one time I literally had something going on, and I was like, okay, if this is the case, if this is what I'm supposed to see, or what I was supposed to see, then show me this. And it came to be. And then I was like, okay, and it was like, all right, that was funny. So and I was riding down the road, and it was literally like, okay, when I come around the next corner, then this, and there it would be. Okay, well, and then it was like I did it 3 times that day, and it was like I could almost hear the laughter going, well, it did 3 times happen within like 5 minutes, and I was like, yeah, okay, because I don't really question, but I think it was just like a moment of I was sort of playing, as well as, you know, every once in a while, even those of us who work in this space all the time, it's like, really, okay, let's just see if this is really real, really, really real, really, really, really real. So we all go through it, but
you know, you also that's a really good point, because I get my guidance. I wear hearing aids, and ironically, clairaudient here, which is, you know, universe has a sense of humor. But sometimes I had like something happen a year ago, and I was like, okay, this is crazy, but I did it. And that's the time, especially, to pay attention to what's going on, because you just never know if it's planting a seed and just waiting for you to pick up. And we've got a question here, or comment from Laurel. Loving the topic, and a timely example for me is trying to listen to this. Took my computer 17 minutes to decide to cooperate. In the past, I'd get so upset versus lots of love. Guess there was a reason I didn't connect to listen initially. H and B, I guess. So thank you, Laurel, for your comment. But again, and that's the time, even when you're like, okay, this sounds nuts, just have to trust it. But just trust there was a reason. And maybe it was a simple reason to get you started to act in faith. But, you know, when you look at life, sometimes the craziest connections or events have happened, and even if it didn't make sense at the time, there was a reason for it.
Right. Right. And I get that all the time. And the more I step in faith, the more I do that and trust my guidance, even though it might not make sense to the mind or to others, and I don't even care. That's getting to the point of not concerning yourself with what others believe or judge, or their truth or their guidance, and you trusting yours, even if it's very different or whatever. Because sometimes yes, you're right, the universe definitely has a sense of humor, and sometimes you're like going, seriously? Like, really? And then it always works out. The more you trust, the more you trust, the bigger it is in terms of turning out. So I simply have let that go, but it's really interesting on how it's so challenging for us to get started with that sometimes, right? Because we are so embedded in the whole, like, and this sort of takes us around to back to the beginning, is how we get so embedded in the whole hierarchy of expecting that others know more than we do and all that kind of stuff. And so that's really like what we're talking about today. These are really basic things to go and start to notice and follow. And you know, one of the best things to remember for all of us is that we're all teachers and we're all students. And the reason that we're all here together is to learn, and to learn from each other, to teach each other. It's really not teaching, it's really helping each other remember in different ways. And so we all have a very specific part of that. And when we, again, so this is a different way of looking at it. Instead of saying some people have special abilities and some people don't, it's saying everybody does. What's going to be differentiated is that based on the individual journeys, the different flavors of ice cream will come together to put the whole puzzle together. And that means everybody's a part of it. So the key is for you to find out what your flavor is, like what you came here to do, because ultimately that's what's going to make your heart sing. It's going to make it goes back to how many topics we've talked about, how much it's going to make you so thrilled for every day and the whole experience, and it will be perfect to fit it into the whole puzzle no matter what it looks like. And when we can trust that, then you don't have to listen to anybody else giving you guidance, unless, you know, you do. I mean, there's also other things to learn. Things about, like, well, sometimes when you are trying to override your own guidance, then the message comes to you from other people or through, like, other things, and, like, after about the third time, you have to say, huh, the same thing keeps on coming to me. Maybe I should listen to this, you know. But that's a different perspective to take too. So the thing is, first and foremost, is to listen to what's within, to not override it, to quiet the ego that tries to override what makes sense, quote unquote, versus what you're guided to do, and have fun with it, because you can if you let go. You can sort of laugh and find the fun in all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got guidance. You know, be more aware now after the conversation that you heard today. If someone feels like to you that they're putting themselves on a pedestal and seeing you less than, then maybe that's someone that you just, you know, you can still always get good advice from people, but to question that. If someone says, my truth is what's right, your isn't, you know, maybe that's someone you're not sure that you maybe don't want to listen to. Again, go back within and trust that guidance, but remember, we're all divine. We're all awesome. We all have our gifts to rock. So go out there and do it.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone, signing off. Julie Craccio and
Angela Coulter. See you next time on Spiritual Coffee.
All right, bye now.